You can choose to put that in or not. It's totally up to you. Let's go.
But I'm thinking being in that position, so I really want to get to the bag.
I feel it.
Yeah, I want to get to the bag and be able to invest in things that will give me a return without me having to touch it. And I just want to make better use of my financial spending. I think I mentioned it to you like maybe a couple of weeks ago where I'm just like, I don't want to buy any more clothes. I want to see if I can go almost the whole year without buying an enormous amount of clothing that I'm not using for either like a clothing haul or some sort of work. So I think that's kind of where, because I worked on emotions, mental health. I've been working on that a lot. So I think next year coming into it, I really want to solidify my financial profile a lot better.
Seems like that's the right order,
Yeah.
mental and yourself first.
What about you?
Kind of the same. I feel like 2025 changed my life in a lot of ways, mentally and physically. I just started caring about the stuff that I really should have been caring about. And I feel like when you have a big workload, priorities are all over the place, and a lot of times you prioritize the deadlines that affect other people.
Right.
And I forget what video showed me this, but somebody said that like if you set a personal deadline or have a personal goal and you don't meet that, that's a sign of like you're like disrespecting yourself, like you don't respect yourself at all. So it's like when I think about like, all right, couple podcasts here, gotta get that done, some all def stuff, some Red Bull stuff, all this stuff that involves teams of people, and then there'll be a project that is either just me or I'm leading that I wanted to come out or I've been working on, and then the deadline comes up and I'm like, I'll push it. Even little things like I want to work on this, I want to go to the gym, I want to get better at this skill, all this stuff, and you're like, I'll do it later. Push it.
Yeah.
That's not respecting yourself.
Because there's no immediate consequence when it's your own project. There's no immediate consequence like there would be if you were working for a company and your boss is like, hey, why isn't the report in on time, or why isn't this video in on time? So you're rushing to make sure you meet the deadline. But when it comes to yourself, if the deadline comes, it's like there's nobody to be like, you didn't do this outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
which doesn't mean there's not a consequence. There is a consequence, but it's not like a confrontation or you're not holding anything up.
Right.
You're not being held accountable.
Exactly.
And I just think that when you do that too many times, it doesn't feel like you're disrespecting yourself, but it really is.
Right.
And when you start not doing that, it feels really good, And I think that a lot of creatives, probably just a lot of people who work on a bunch of stuff, anytime you relax or do something else, it's faint. Sometimes it's louder than others, but there's always that you should be doing this, you should be doing this, blah, 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 blah. And then when you do that, I see how people are like, oh, my head is clearer. It ain't like you're hearing voices and stuff, but it's just like, oh, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. So
I feel like it's easier to work for somebody else than it is to work for yourself. Like, because
it's
everything
tough.
is already laid out, on what you're supposed to do when you're working for someone else.
Right.
But when you work for yourself, you have to create it. You are the sole person responsible for whether this succeeds or not. And so there's naturally going to be a lot more effort, a lot more energy, a lot more discipline, a lot more put into your own project. And it's easy to be like, okay, well, this is all laid out, so let me take care of this, because these people kind of have things. So, and it's not going to take as much time, but then when it comes to yourself, you're like, okay, I have to plan this. I have to, figure this out. And then once you get the ball rolling, the machine oiled for yourself, then it's like, okay, I'm tripping if I don't do it. And everything is already like, I've already done the back work.
Yeah.
So that's something that creatives, I think, definitely have to deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis is just making sure that your own stuff is as important as the stuff that you're doing for other people, if
Right.
Oh
not
yeah.
more.
You gotta
So that's
you
great.
gotta like ask yourself, like, if I was my own boss, like if I was two people, you were saying that, you know, there's no immediate consequences like a boss yelling at you, but like
Right.
based on how I've been working, if I was my own employee, would I fire myself?
Exactly.
And then it's just like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I probably would. And I
Yeah.
think that another thing that that kind of like distracted me was, I think that I think I'm overall.
A lot has been said here, but I want to just focus in on one thing that he's talking about and kind of put a spin on it. So for me, when I hear him saying that, you know, firing yourself, would you, if you were an employee, would you fire yourself? I know he's just talking about in the general term, like, do you feel like you would be up to snuff being the employee that you are? Now, I look at it a different way. As for me, somebody who has had my own business now for 15 years, I have grown through that business in ways that I didn't even know were possible. When I first started this as a small entrepreneur, I didn't even know how to start a business. I just knew what the proper steps were to get licensed, right? Well, now I'm 15 years later and I look at it completely different, and I look at it as I've had to fire myself personally. And what I mean by that is when I was just doing the bottom line and I was doing all of the work and I was doing most of the labor of the job, I was doing all of it. But when I wanted to go to the next step and level up and be more of a manager and look at this company from a higher altitude, I had to realize that I had to fire myself, meaning that I had to fire the old way and the old paradigm that I used to be in and have a new paradigm shift to where I was now the owner of this company and I could no longer think as an employee. So I had to personally fire myself so that I could go through the separation of that position to where I could actually take on the next role. I know it sounds crazy, but when you're so used to doing one thing, or even in the role that I did, it was multifaceted where I did plenty of roles, but that was a position and I knew I needed to level up. Now I'm 15 years into the game to where I've been able to successfully do those level ups, but I've had to fire myself along the way. And even the way he's referring it to, if you were your own employee, would you fire yourself? I think that we have to be critical of ourselves. I think that we have to, especially because it's our business and the buck stops with us, I have to be able to do the work that my entire company produces at times, just in case, what if something happened, you know? So you always have to have backup plans, backup people to help you in the event, because one person can't do it all. But I just think of really having to look at myself in different positions and say, okay, well, it's time for me to move on from this. And as they're sitting here talking about, you know, the things that they have learned or that they want to go into this year, when they're talking about the financial stability, I feel all of that. And I think all of us feel that. As you get older, you want to really make sure that you have a good portfolio, just like she was referring to, or with him, he's saying, you know, put yourself first and make sure that you're doing and not, don't shortchange yourself as far as like pushing things off. Get those projects done, because when you put them off, he's saying you kind of do a disservice to yourself. You're kind of hurting yourself. And I like to think of it as, what would the future me want right now? I always think about her, because right now I don't want to do any of it. And I most of the time will find a reason to talk my way out of doing anything, especially if it's like a large task that I know I have to sit down. It's not that I don't want to do it, but I'm just like the time, all of that. So I have to think of, what would the future me want? What would make her happy? And when I start living for that, it makes it so much easier. It makes it feel like I can knock these tasks out because it's something that I need to achieve that next step. And as being your own business owner, you really do have to be able to take on a lot of risks that most people aren't. That's why they don't go into business for themselves. Most businesses don't make it past 3 years. So if you can make it past that and go through the grind of having your own business, knowing what it feels like to have to deal with everything that comes with it, you are successful. And especially being a creative, I think that what a lot of people don't talk about is there has to be a little bit of insanity to be a creative, because your mind is always going and you think of thoughts that most people don't. And that's a huge part of the vein of being an entrepreneur. So, yeah, that's just my take on just a little bit of that. Let's jump back into the show.
Consistent, but I'm not like individually consistent. So for example, like if I'm working on 10 different things and I'm posting about I'm working on them, and it's constantly coming out one thing
Right.
from each thing. But now I'm looking at them as individuals, and it's like, this isn't consistent. I've been constantly working on all this stuff and putting
Right.
stuff out and doing everything, but then you look back to that first thing after the 10th thing, and it hasn't. You haven't been working on it in weeks, you
Right,
know?
right.
So it's like there's stuff always coming out, but each individual thing isn't consistent, and it's like, all right, you got to make your own bed. If you start, if you're that type of person that wants to be like jack of all trades, master of none, working on a bunch of stuff, you either got to have a bunch of teams or put in a lot
that
of
doesn't work.
time, as opposed to somebody who locks in on one thing and just works on that one thing all the time.
Right.
Which I've always been jealous of, but that's just never been me.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I wish I could.
So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I want to work on. You know, consistency, discipline, all that stuff. All the BS people say every year. You know?
Yeah, the
I
basics.
don't know. Like, yeah, I definitely am with you there with consistency.
Yeah.
Because I found that I'm in a position where I have a strong profile on all of my social medias.
Yeah.
But my problem comes in, I get tired, or sometimes I don't feel like being seen, or I don't want to, record this or record that. And, and there is a point in life that you get to where you do value just like being off camera a lot more than even being on.
Yeah.
And I get to a point where I'm like, people are fighting tooth and nail to get the numbers that I get on my, social media platforms. And I'm over here like, la, 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 la. So sometimes I put it into perspective, like, are you not like being
thankful?
Are you not like doing what you need to do because you've gotten complacent?
Yeah.
And then that's so dangerous, because if you get complacent, that's the quickest way to get left behind.
Yeah.
Trends change, people grow up, people get tired of you and your shit. So if you have it and you built it, in my head, I'm telling myself, I need to take better care of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because like when I worked in the group homes and all that, I cared about what I was doing, making sure I was consistent at work every day, barely called out, doing all that. But then why am I not doing it like that for myself? Now, granted, I was unhappy there. And now I'm not unhappy.
Yeah.
So that is a big difference. But I guess there's a balance that you can find, because it's not always going to be like roses and daisies and flower fields. There is going to be, a season change when you have to deal with certain things. Some stuff will have to die off for other stuff to grow, so I'm learning that too. So it's a really, really cool experience.
I feel that. Yep. And we got some end of the year champagne to pop for a great year of Thick Threads, a great year of We Trippin', a great year bonding with thread heads, getting into new stuff like gaming and all that kind of stuff. I did see this video. It was them videos where like a white dude walks up on somebody and is just like, how did you get to where you're at? That kind of thing. There's a really powerful one, and it's cool. You don't think it's going to be powerful because it's like two like niggas smoking, or no, they're not smoking, but like they're like iced out in a car, and they're like, what? They're like, what did you do to get to where you're at? And the dude actually surprised me. He said, "Nah, just whooping my ass."
You want me to see if I could check it out?
No. It's a new year. We just talked about consistency and
It's a new.
all that stuff. I got to do this.
Oh shit!
But it's cool. I got a cool story while I'm doing it.
Okay.
Their answer kind of helped me a lot. They said, it's not about what we do, it's about what we don't do. And then they talked about how they remove a lot of stuff from their life that doesn't serve them, so that they can get to that blank slate when a lot of
that's the
people,
truth.
when they feel like they need to pivot. When they feel like they need to pivot, they add a bunch of stuff, and that's me. You know what I mean? Okay, it's a new day. I'm just gonna start doing this. I'm gonna start doing this. I'm gonna start doing this. I'm gonna start doing this, instead of like taking a second and like thinking like, okay, what can I take away from the scenario that can clear everything out, and then I can start building on that, you know, and then that lets you kind of like avoid bad habits and all of that stuff, and kind of just start from ground zero instead of just putting more on your plate. So
because you end up with a million projects that you're like, okay, I started this and I only did 2 episodes, and then I'm looking to start something new. Oh, sir, that is like a gun.
To 2026. That shit sounded like a poop.
Right?
I'm going to pause this right there. I was going to look through to see what else is here. And I just want to give a shout out to this podcast. This is the Thick Thread podcast. I liked how she was being really transparent there. And that last part when she was talking about us being a creator, she said, I have a very large platform on multiple social media platforms. And at times I can forget and realize, hey, where I am at. And I just think that we don't always hear that from creators. And she's just being very honest. Like, I'm sure it is very hard all of the time that you have to put in the dedication at a level platform like that. But it's just nice to see her just be real with it. Like, I don't know if I can be as consistent with this. Because I think that everybody falls short in some areas of being consistent. But the more that you work on those little atomic habits, the better that it gets. And that's something for me that has really changed over, I would say, the years. Not just, I don't look at it as this year, last year. It's a continuous journey. And just as far as getting really good processes down, really good time, really good routines, so that you're able to thrive in your business and life. Because my life is extremely multifaceted: a wife, a mother, a PTA mom, all of those things that go with it. And I just think if I have to be really organized or try to have a process, and be okay with when the organization doesn't line up, because it's there to help. And sometimes I don't even get anything close to it, but I really do try to strive for that in my personal life, because it just makes things easier, and it just kind of sets up the trajectory for everything that's going to happen. So this was a really good podcast. Shout out to them, and shout out to you for watching this. Until next time, peace out.